The day was September 11th, 2001. It started out just like any other day. But very soon, the United States would be hit with an event that would go down in history as the day that changed America forever. 7:59 a.m. American Airlines Flight 11, a Boeing 767 with 92 people aboard, takes off from Boston's Logan International Airport and up to Los Angeles. 8:14 a.m. United Airlines Flight 175, a Boeing 767 with 65 people aboard, takes off from Boston, also headed to Los Angeles. 8:19 a.m. Flight attendants aboard Flight 11 alert ground personnel that the plane has been hijacked. American Airlines notifies the FBI. 8:20 a.m. American Airlines Flight 77 takes off from Dulles International Airport outside of Washington, D.C., heading to Los Angeles with 64 people aboard. 8:24 a.m. Hijacker Mohammed Atta makes the first of 2 accidental transmissions from Flight 11 to ground control. 8:40 a.m. The Federal Aviation Administration alerts North American Aerospace Defense Command's Northeast Air Defense Sector about the suspected hijacking of Flight 11. 2 fighter planes located at Cape Cod's Otis Air National Guard Base were sent out to find and follow Flight 11. 8:41 a.m. United Airlines Flight 93, a Boeing 757 with 44 people aboard, takes off from Newark International Airport en route to San Francisco. 8:46 a.m. Flight 11 is crashed into floors 93 through 99 of the North Tower of the World Trade Center, killing everyone on board and hundreds inside the building. Within seconds, NYPD and FDNY forces dispatch units to the World Trade Center, while Port Authority Police Department officers on site begin immediate evacuation of the North Tower. 8:50 a.m. President George W. Bush is alerted that a plane has hit the World Trade Center while visiting an elementary school in Sarasota, Florida. 9:03 a.m. United Airlines Flight 175 is crashed into floors 75 through 85 of the World Trade Center South Tower, killing everyone on board and hundreds inside the building. "9:08 a.m. The FAA bans all takeoffs of flights going to New York City or through the airspace around the city. 9:21 a.m. The Port Authority closes all bridges and tunnels in New York City area. 9:24 a.m. The FAA notified NEADS of the suspected hijacking of Flight 77 after some passengers and crew aboard are able to alert family members on ground. 9:31 a.m. President George W. Bush speaks in Florida, calls the events in New York City an apparent terrorist attack in our country. 9:37 a.m. Flight 77 is crashed into the western side of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. All 59 aboard the plane are killed, and 125 military and civilian personnel inside the building also lose their lives. For the first time in history, the FAA grounds all flights over or bound for the continental United States. About 3,300 commercial flights and 1,200 private planes are guided to airports in Canada and the U.S. over the next 2.5 hours. The White House and U.S. Capitol are evacuated. along with other high-profile buildings, landmarks, and public spaces. "9:59 a.m. The South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses. "10:07 a.m. After passengers and crew members aboard the hijacked Flight 93 contact friends and family and learn about the attacks in New York and Washington, D.C., they attempt to retake the plane. It is crashed into a field in rural Pennsylvania, never reaching its target. Of 40 passengers and crew aboard are killed. 10:28 a.m. The World Trade Center's North Tower collapses 102 minutes after being struck by Flight 11. "11 a.m. An evacuation of Lower Manhattan, south of Canal Street, is called for, including more than 1 million residents, workers, and tourists. The search for survivors at the World Trade Center site is continued. 1 p.m. From a U.S. Air Force base in Louisiana, President Bush announces that U.S. military forces are on high alert worldwide. 2:51 p.m. The U.S. Navy dispatches missile destroyers to New York and Washington, D.C. 5:20 p.m. The World Trade Center 7 collapses after burning for hours. The building had been evacuated earlier, so there were no casualties from this collapse. "8:30 p.m.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror.
The days following the attacks came with many questions from U.S. citizens across the country. Everyone wanted to know who did it and why, but it would be a long time before these questions were fully answered. On September 13th, the White House announced that there was overwhelming evidence that terrorist leader Osama bin Laden was behind the attacks. On October 2nd, the USA Patriot Act was introduced to Congress, and on October 26th, it was signed into law, allowing law enforcement and the government to better be able to stop terrorism. Operation Enduring Freedom was launched on October 7th in Afghanistan to dismantle al-Qaeda and remove the country's Taliban regime to establish a democracy. On December 13th, a tape in which Osama bin Laden takes full responsibility for the attacks was released. He was finally tracked down and killed by U.S. forces on May 13th, 2011, at a hideout in Pakistan. In June the same year, President Barack Obama announced the beginning of large-scale troop withdrawals from Afghanistan, with the final withdrawal of U.S. forces scheduled for 2014. The 9/11 attacks changed America forever, having a big part in shaping the 21st century and leaving its mark on United States history. 2,753 were killed from the crashes at the World Trade Center, including 343 New York City firefighters, 23 New York City police officers, and 37 Port Authority officers. At the Pentagon, 184 lost their lives, and 40 passengers and crew died when Flight 93 crashed, totaling 2,977 victims. As of September 2015, 1,113 of the 2,753 World Trade Center victims are unidentified. The 9/11 Memorial opened on September 11, 2001, and the 9/11 Memorial Museum opened on May 21, 2014.
This is a day when all Americans from every walk of life unite in our resolve for justice and peace. America has stood down enemies before, and we will do so this time. None of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world. Thank you, good night, and God bless America.